Angela is a blessing to all women having babies and families because she understands and she listens and she loves and she supports women to become strong again, to face the trauma and the grief and the sadness and come through feeling empowered again.
Even via Skype, she held the most amazing space, and I felt she empowered me completely to continue my own healing, because to understand what happened in that time created so much acceptance, created so much healing. And simultaneously from healing from that birth, I feel like through my time with Angela, I've actually completely prepared for the next birth.
The most important thing I wanted for my daughter's birth was a natural, surrendered, beautiful water birth. And if you ended up with everything that you didn't want for your birth, I am here for you. I understand what it feels like to have your heart broken during childbirth. It's one of the biggest things that we do as women, and we have such little real preparation for the work that's required to bring children into the world.
You want your healthy, beautiful, safe baby, but there's also a hole in your heart when you don't get to bring your baby into the world in the way that you'd hoped.
She was already midwifing women, and she's taking that midwifery to this whole new place now. So that was really important for me. It was also just who she is as a woman. I felt very deeply connected with her, and the fact that she held space so beautifully.
She has a special way of reaching into your heart and making you feel safe to share your story. She was loving and gentle and soft and respectful.
It was an incredible process to even for the first time realise what would you have liked to have said to them before they took you into surgery, and to acknowledge the fear and to go through that process again with people actually respecting you and hearing you. Very healing.
After the work I did with Angela, I manifested a beautiful love relationship with someone who I consider now to be the love of my life, which I just think is so profound that the work on healing my birth could have had so many positive ripple effects in all my relationships.
As women, I feel our bodies are sacred ground, and as sacred ground we need to respect. If you felt anything less than empowered, if you felt that you weren't revered, that you weren't respected, and that you weren't honoured in your birthing experience, part of my work is helping repair some of the damage that has happened in our journeys. And I want you to know that no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've experienced, you can heal.
I know many of us really believe in our inherent nature to, grow these babies and birth them, and when that's taken from you, it's a real sense of being robbed of that experience.
I was actually completely terrified of becoming a mother. This deep fear, this massive transition point that I've never even come close to anything like that before.
I had planned or envisioned a water birth at home with my partner catching our baby, but I kind of had all of the opposite of that. One of the midwives early on said to me, "I know what you need." And I remember thinking, how could you possibly know what I need? But then somehow I convinced myself that, okay, I must need the epidural. She thinks I need it, so I ended up having an epidural. And so part of me was angry later at that midwife for putting this idea in my head or telling me that this is what I needed.
When the obstetrician was there, she was quite rough with me, and I all of a sudden felt quite threatened and powerless, whereas for the whole labour I felt fine before that, and I was coping and I felt empowered, but then when she arrived I felt quite powerless.
Well, I had a really traumatic first birth with my firstborn son. It was a traumatic cesarean after a very long labour. And then my second birth was slightly less traumatic, but all the same, still quite difficult. The more Angela and I explored my birth story, the more I realised that actually a lot of me had shut down during that birth of my first son.
After my son was born, for about 8 weeks, I actually felt completely ecstatic. And at 8 weeks after he was born, something changed in me, and I actually felt crushed.
As soon as I agreed against everything in me to that early induction, things just sort of spiralled out of control, and it took a few days of induced labour and then ended in a caesarean. And I think by the time that surgery came around, there'd been so many people that had sort of just taken any form of decision making away from me.
Why was I feeling guilt, and why was I feeling shame, and why was I embarrassed? And she helped me unravel those feelings to understand where those feelings were coming from, and that then helped me to feel more at peace with those feelings, I guess.
We stepped through each step of the way, and I was given an opportunity to express to each person I dealt with before we moved on to the next stage. Yeah, I still feel emotional talking about that. It was an incredible process.
I always felt that she had this warmth and acceptance about her that made me feel that, yeah, sure, I'll go to the bottom of my heart with you, you know, any day. I remember it was funny because we went through my first birth, which was really, really amazing. And then I was sort of relaxing a bit on the session table, and I went, but there's another birth. I'm like, two. And I just went straight into the second birth as well, all in one go, and just cleared that as well. It was an amazing release, and I felt, yeah, the energies were very, very high and free and liberated and amazing after that.
We explored past termination that I'd had, which was very traumatic. And I was surprised because I thought the sessions would just be about the birth of my first child, but it goes so much deeper than that, because what I brought to that birth was my whole history and the fear of being a woman who was quite powerless, and that has so many links back to the history of my mothers and grandmothers.
It was quite intuitive, but she would often be just in devotion. The way she would work with my body, she did a lot of womb and heart connection, just massaging those areas and really working on connecting those two feminine energy centers.
Every woman that walks into a hospital to give birth, you know, has a story that needs to be emotionally supported, but in that environment our emotions are cast to one side. So yeah, her work as a midwife, I think, is pivotal, because she gets that that's missing in the midwifing mainstream. Yeah.
I think it's the awareness around my birth that's the biggest change, because there was something where I was in hiding before, where I hadn't forgiven myself for and I hadn't accepted. And that, I feel, is probably the greatest shift, where I felt that I've actually faced this now, and I made a conscious choice to let this heal.
She created this beautiful ritual where I was able to really be seen. And there's such a disparity between what others see in us and what we see in ourselves, but something broke, something shifted, I was cracked open, and to be honest, I haven't looked back. It's been amazing, and how that's showing up in my life, and how I mother, and how that's showing up in what I'm doing in my business. And I feel ready to share this with other women now. I want all women to feel that, but it really came from that key work that I did with Angela.
The dawning of
The role of the mother is so very precious and priceless, but it's not revered to the level that it needs to be for women to feel that this work is so necessary. You know, we carry this wounding, but we don't realise that we're wounded by the birth experience until someone like Angela comes in and you realise that it's a key to healing a lot of society's problems, to heal our own births, to heal, the births of our children. And Angela really understands that on a deep level.
When we allow all of what we feel to sort of dance in the space around us, we can let it be free. When that happens, there's a lot of grace, there's a lot of transformations.
There's something deep within you that you keep pushing down that arises when you think of your child's birth. It doesn't actually matter what those around you or society tells you. If it doesn't feel right to you, then it wasn't right. That's valid. Honour it and explore it and go there.
I feel that as women, having a baby, growing a human and bringing them into the world is a rite of passage, and it's one of the biggest things we will ever do in our life.
Now I know exactly what I need to make my birth completely supported and peaceful and connected.
I feel stronger in myself, somewhere in here, when it comes to feeling myself as a mother to my children.
Wow, I feel like a completely different woman, if I'm really honest.
I am definitely a lot more at peace with it, and I'm ready to do it again now, but in a different way.
I'm really passionate about letting these birds fly free that have been caged for so long. And I hold space for you to heal from the wounds of your womb.
No matter how long ago your birth was, if there's still pain there, I really recommend speaking to Angela, spending time with Angela, because she will help you come back into the light and feel full in your heart again.